How's everyone doing?
Great, thanks.
Good, man. Nice to virtually meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
I like your PFP. What is that? He's got a little Axelar hat on. That's
3D.
cool.
Yeah, thanks.
3D.
So it's from the Wrecked Wolves collection. So I think Wrecked Wolves or Wrecked Gang, they used to be like a Terra project, and then they got wrecked, obviously, after Terra. And then that's their name now. And they made a collection, a few of these PFPs for Axelar.
Nice. Uh that's a smart pivot. It's a good way to play it.
Collaboration's the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Just
Yeah,
for
for
those in the
sure.
chat as well, we'll be using the events chat, so you can access that in the top right corner if you're looking at the call, or you can also hover on the events panel on the left-hand side, and there's an open chat module. So if you have any questions throughout, just leave them in there, and we'll keep an eye on that. Just sorting out Fig, some access, but Charles, maybe if you want to kick it off, perhaps, or if you guys want to wait a little longer, I'm just getting in the Discord invite.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I wanted to start with Axelar anyways. I feel like that's the natural sort of order of things. So yeah, Jason, do you want to just give us a brief introduction of yourself and maybe how you got into DeFi and what led you to Axelar?
Yeah, happy to. Great to meet everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name's Jason. I lead DeFi at Axelar. My crypto story is like many of you. I got exposed to Bitcoin and Ethereum in early 2017 and really just saw it as a speculative asset, put some money, gambled on it, and, didn't really think too much of crypto. And then when DeFi summer began, I was just saw like things like Dogecoin exploding, and I thought, what, might be a good idea to short Dogecoin because I didn't think there was any intrinsic value to meme coins and things like that. And the only place I knew how to do it was through DYDX. And then by chance, you know, it was just Doge was crashing. So I was shorting it with leverage like a classic degen. At one point, I think I had like a $3 million position or something like that where DYDX ran out of liquidity and I instantly like lost some money and I was quite upset with DYDX for a while. And then that got me the biggest airdrop, a few months down the line. And then, after that I said, okay, it's time to stop being an ape and really like better understand DeFi and the industry. Um, and then before you know it, I found a great job leading the strategy and operations team at Ripple. And that was really my first foray into crypto before getting this role at Axelar.
Wow, cool. That's that's an interesting story. Working at
Airdrops are the
Ripple,
best.
yeah, airdrop, getting the DYDX airdrop, that's cool. Yeah, I was looking at DeFi in 2020 and I don't know, I regret I was slow. I was too slow. I wasn't my timing was less optimal, but yeah, cool, man. And Big, welcome. Glad to see you here. Thanks for joining us.
GM. Thanks for having me, guys.
GM.
You want me to intro myself as well?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Go for it.
Happy to give a bit of a background. I'm one of the co-founders of Squid, which is the cross-chain swap and routing and transaction building layer on top of Axelar. I'm a dev, but I'm not doing much code anymore. I'm leading product and partnerships. And my background is in medicine. I studied med at university, and I quit that to go and try other things because I didn't want to be a doctor. So I went to live in New York. I was couch surfing for a long time and like taught myself to code and was working as a dev building like mobile apps and websites, doing some like medical research stuff as well for a while. And I was a musician and while I was living in New York, got really interested in finance because my friends were traders, and like we were talking about market microstructure and high frequency trading and that kind of stuff, and ended up getting a job in TradFi as an analyst for medical investments. And while I was doing that, I started getting interested in crypto, and it was like became so obvious that like a lot of the stuff I was doing in my day job was going to get replaced or automated by crypto, like something like needing to get signatures, just like printing out a piece of paper and getting someone to sign it, and then photocopying it or scanning it. It's just like so obviously going to get replaced by signing with a wallet, or same with bank accounts and whatnot. And yeah, so quit to go into crypto full time. And then Squid I essentially like sort of started Squid immediately, but we kept on pivoting for a long time, and was really lucky to come across Axelar, who were like leading the vision of interoperability and like connecting applications in different chains, and got to know their team really well and started building on them, and yeah, collected a team and raised some money. And yeah, here we are. Squid's working mainnet now.
Very
If I can
cool.
interject real quick, Fig, were you the guy behind the Squid name? Because Charles was wondering who the Splatoon fan is.
No, I wasn't. We actually Squid came to us from Axelar. They come up with the name. I don't actually.
Oh, neat.
Is Platoon's a game, right?
Yeah, it's like it's a game where you try and paint the whatever arena you're in, and like yeah, you turn into a squid, and it's kind of, I don't know, the aesthetic is kind of similar to Squid, but maybe that's just a coincidence. But
You're not
it's
alone,
really
Fig.
fun.
We asked the chat, and no one responded to Charles asking if anyone knew what Splatoon was. So don't worry, you're definitely not the only one.
Okay.
Oh, it's a new game. I've seen. Yeah, someone else has said this to me before, actually.
Okay.
Nice.
Not crazy. Well, very neat. I don't think medical student, musician, crypto. Maybe you're the only one who's taken that path. It's an interesting journey. Okay, awesome. So I want to start by just talking about Axelar. And Jason, do you think you could give us sort of some ground to stand on in terms of what Axelar is, and maybe just a brief description of Axelar at sort of 30,000 feet? Maybe not. Okay.
Can't hear you, Jason, speaking. I think you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That was weird. Yeah, I said on a very high level, you can think of Axelar as a full stack decentralized interoperability solution. Axelar is built like a proof of stake blockchain using Cosmos SDK, and it connects other blockchains. And it could be EVM, non-EVM chains. And why we say Axelar is fully decentralized is because it employs delegated proof of stake security and consensus. The validator set on the Axelar network is fully decentralized and permissionless. Like any other Cosmos chains, anyone can spin up a validator, and then as long as they are performant and have enough delegations from the community, they'll be part of the active set. And for any message or asset to be transferred through the Axelar network, these validators have to, validate it and reach consensus. Why we say Axelar is full stack is because, when you think of interoperability, right, a lot of people only associate it with bridging. But what Axelar really offers is 3 layers. One, you have this, proof of stake network layer. And then you have this layer of like APIs and SDKs. And we think of this as like building blocks that helps developers build interchain applications. And then the last layer are services. So Axelar also provides a layer of services like gas service, where you can pay gas in, the source currency of the source chain. So like that'd be AVAX for Avalanche. And we also have like a relayer service. So after like a message has been validated, anyone can use Axelar's relay service to relay that to other chains connected to the Axelar network. This really contrasts with some of the other solutions out there where, a common complaint we hear from developers is that it's super hard to build cross-chain, right? Whether they don't want to have to build the infrastructure themselves, like the relayers, or they just don't have a lot of like tools or example to get them started. And that's really how Axelar prides itself on. We really want to create the best developer experience and offer the best tech.
Very, very interesting solution, and seems like very necessary solution to a lot of problems that exist today. And was that the main motivation behind Axelar's inception? Was that like just some connectivity solution to all this fragmentation that you get with all these chains? Yeah. What specific problems were you looking to solve with Axelar?
Yeah, totally. So I guess I'll give you guys kind of a background on the co-founders of Axelar. So Sergey and Yorgos are the co-founders of Axelar, and they were actually on the founding team of Algorand. And they started building Axelar over 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, there was not that many blockchains, right? It was just like Ethereum, XRPL, and Algorand. And even in those early days, when they were building Algorand, Sergey and Yorgos quickly realized that the bigger problem was not building more and more performant blockchains, but it was like, how do you actually get these completely heterogeneous blockchains to be able to speak to each other? So then they started working on Axelar.
Nice, very cool. So okay. So let's get into the details a little bit. So, as a user, I want to be able to move my funds around. I want to be able to send, some assets from chain A to chain B. How does that work with Axelar? So what is the path of, if I want to send USDC from whatever, ETH to Optimism or something. How does that go through the network, and what does the process look like?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I think a lot of people have a lot of confusion when it comes to asset transfers. Typically when people think of bridging, what's happening is that you're locking one asset, the source asset on the source chain, and then you're minting a wrap version of that asset on the destination. So for example, if users were to bridge USDC from, let's say, Ethereum to USDC on Phantom via multi-chain, what's actually happening is you're locking that, Ethereum USDC issued by Circle on Ethereum, and then you're minting a multi-chain wrap version of that USDC on Phantom. And what these kind of bridging, right, what we see time and time again is that when the bridge gets hacked, the asset could get depegged, right? Because basically what's happening is the hacker is taking the Ethereum, the USDC on Ethereum, and then that USDC on the destination chain, this multi-chain wrapped, the USDC then becomes meaningless. However, it's very confusing for the average users because so many times we just denominate these wrapped assets as what it is, right? So a lot of people wouldn't know that the USDC on Phantom isn't issued by Circle. Frankly, I think recently people were surprised when they heard that the USDC on Arbitrum were not issued by Circle. It was actually just bridged wrapped USDC via the canonical Arbitrum bridge. So with that, in mind, how Axelar transfers asset is there's various ways. So Axelar also has asset transfers via wrapped assets. In fact, in Cosmos and Kava, these ecosystem where there isn't these natively issued assets, everyone uses Axelar wrapped assets. However, the key difference here is because Axelar is fully decentralized and secured by this permissionless validator set, the security model and architecture is far more secure than centralized bridges, where, as we've seen with multi-chain, when there's a single point of failure, you can literally have your CEO go missing and the bridge stops functioning.
Yeah.
But what I want to add is our main focus is not having wrapped assets and doing traditional bridging. Axelar also offers something known as message passing, which is the ability to pass messages and call smart contracts on any of the chains we're connected to. So, for example, what Squid is doing is not what I just mentioned. Squid is actually offering, native to native assets via atomic swaps. So, if let's say a user wanted, USDC again from Ethereum to Phantom, what Squid is actually doing is it's swapping the USDC to Axelar USDC, bridging it over to the destination chain, and then swapping it for the native asset on that side. So the users are always are getting, native assets, and there isn't any chance of depegging with wrapped assets. But I think on that note, it's probably best to pass to Fig for him to tell you guys a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Want me to jump in? Happy to give it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I think Jason gave you a nice,
That's great.
segue in there.
Cool. Yeah, so we use Axelar's general message passing to essentially combine dexes across chains. Like Squid's whole vision or mission, I guess, is to reduce any cross-chain interaction down into one click. So using an app on another chain should be just as easy as using the app on the same chain that you're on. We don't think that users will ever really think about what chain they're on, or want to have to think about, oh, this application's on Arbitrum and I have to I have my money on Optimism. I have to do something before I can even access this application. It just makes no sense, right? We have in the Web 2 world, you've got your bank account and you got your credit card or your debit card, and you should be able to just use that card on any store, any e-commerce store, to sign up for any subscription, to access any financial tool. There really shouldn't be any barriers, and that's what Squid's trying to do with Axelar's general message passing and their bridging as well. So yeah, you can go to Squid and in one click get any token, any chain in under 20 seconds. Same thing with applications we have a set of front-end tools as well that are a bit like Stripe or PayPal, which let you pay using any token in your wallet. Yeah, and so we do that by connecting. It's a bit like 1inch for cross-chain. So we're connecting dexes across different chains to make any trade possible at the best price.
Sweet. And I wanted to ask how do you go about deciding what dexes to add, what chains to add, what new tokens to add? What is that process like? And is there some sort of are there some requirements for, I'm assuming, if some random person spins up a DEX, they can't just, okay, I want to plug into Squid right away. What are the requirements behind supporting new assets, new chains, etc.?
Yeah, we want to make it as as open as possible, right? Because this is why we're all in DeFi. We want it to be easy for someone to come and benefit from Squid, but then at the same time, we don't want to make it easy to scam. We don't want to make it easy for we need to have a reliable service as well. Some of our partners, some of the aggregators who we partner with, have permissionless models where someone can come along and add their own DEX themselves, and it sometimes results in failures for the users and failures for us because we've integrated with these aggregators. So yeah, we have instead a bit of a diligence process where someone makes a request, or if you're a DEX, generally we get in a Telegram group and just suss out the contracts. Usually it's not too bad because the contracts have been forked from one of the major protocols, and we can yeah, we can just go off that open source sort of mentality. And for whitelisting, it's same thing. We do a bit of due diligence, have a look at the liquidity, and we're generally pretty open to work with anyone.
Cool. Yeah. I was thinking about liquidity and different pools, and I would imagine there would need to be a certain amount of liquidity, so you're actually getting you're not like suffering any sort of major slippage for swaps, things like that. Yeah, nice. So Jason, piggybacking on Fig's description of Squid there. So Squid is using Axelar to be able to facilitate atomic swaps and things of that nature. I wanted to ask about the gateway smart contracts that Axelar uses to connect to like the Axelar network, that those are the gateways to connect to the various chains. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, exactly. So, how Axelar is able to connect to any blockchain, you can think of the gateway contracts almost as like a translator. These gateway contracts can read and write in like the language of that blockchain. So, if we were connecting Solana, these gateway contracts would understand like Rust, and it would understand the consensus rules of that blockchain as well. And through the gateway contract is how we're able to pass these messages and sync states across these different blockchains.
Nice. And Erzengel, I see your question. I see your point. I will turn that into a question in a second. But I wanted to just keep going along this path. So I was thinking about the gateway smart contracts, and you were talking about these bridge contracts, and obviously the bridge contracts are holding a bunch of assets that make them sort of vulnerable, or make them targets of attacks and things like this. Do you want to talk about Axelar's security model a little bit, and maybe just general security, like what you feel are like the core pillars of security, and maybe what makes Axelar as a sort of connectivity layer a way better solution than just having a bunch of bridges. Although you did kind of allude to this earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
How we think about security here at Axelar is threefold. First, it all starts with decentralized design, right? We talked about earlier how it's just the way that Axelar is built is that we are using something that's been a battle-tested design, right? Like proof-of-stake security has been around for quite some time. All of the security assumptions are well documented, and it's pretty standard in the industry that everyone knows that decentralized proof-of-stake security is probably the most secure way of building these kind of things. And what Axelar has done even further is we've done our best to further decentralize the validator set by implementing quadratic voting. So one of the common things we see with these proof-of-stake chains is, some of these top validators, because they have the most of the stake, they have a lot of the voting power. And we're one of the first protocols to implement quadratic voting, where the voting power of each of the validators is actually the square root of the stake that they have. So it spreads the voting power further out throughout the network. In addition to this, the second thing we think about is transparency, right? So if you guys go to axelarscan.io, you'll be able to see everything about the network, how like the key cross-chain activity, every single transaction going through, who our validators are, the status of those validators, as well as you go to the TVL tab, you're actually able to see every single asset that's secured on the Axelar network, and you can even look at each of the single contract by itself. So you really can see everything, and this is quite novel in the industry. If you look at other players like Layer Zero, Wormhole, or Multichain, they're very much like a black box, right? You, as an average user or developer, you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So we really believe transparency is key. And then the last component is we really believe that everything is possible to get hacked, right? And you just have to build safety measures against that. So we have various things we've implemented at Axelar that kicks in the case of an emergency. One of those things is called rate limits. And what rate limits are is essentially like a circuit breaker that caps the amount of asset that can be transferred in a certain time interval. So as an example, on the gateway contract, the rate limit for USDC is something like 5 million per day. So if we were to get hacked, that's the max a person could transfer in a single day. And you can set these rate limits on the network level, but also on the application level. We also employ various best practices like rotating our validator keys on a very frequent basis. So, if there was a malicious actor trying to accumulate keys to undermine the network, that'd be incredibly difficult. And on top of that, we do the standard things like Axelar has been audited over 30 times. It continues to go through ongoing audits. We also have one of the largest bug bounties on ImmuneFi of 2.25 million. So when you combine all of these things together, we really believe that Axelar is the most secure interoperability solution out there. And really because of this, when Uniswap did their cross-chain assessment and they interviewed every single cross-chain provider and made them answer their questions, only Axelar and Wormhole were approved out of all of the options out there. So I think that should also give people confidence that using Axelar and building on Axelar is the best choice.
Amazing segue. I was just about to point that out, and I mean that's good. I don't know. That's like a nice sort of. Okay, I forget the term that is appropriate, but that's a nice validation. Thank you. And kind of measuring stick for users like me who aren't very technically versed. And when, you hear all these builders talking about security and what their practices are, and it sounds great all the time. And but it can be hard for users to actually parse out the details and figure out which solution is actually, doing the needful. So having Uniswap come in and sort of validate like the security model is really is really good for me to be able to massive achievement, exactly, for me to be able to be like, oh, okay, this is like very legit. And I know Uniswap, and they're like, obviously they're a beast in the space. So anyways, congrats.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Charles. But I want to just double click on that. One of the things that's been super frustrating for me as like a user and a builder in this interoperability space is that because it is so highly technical, that very few people really knows and understands the trade-offs, the security assumptions with these different bridges or cross-chain infrastructure providers, right? And because there's so many vested interest that a lot of people just say all kinds of stuff. There's so much noise. And a lot of times it's not even true, right? And you have this a lot of even, supposedly smart people, whether those are VCs or influencers, endorsing all of these solutions. But a lot of times they haven't done the technical analysis. They don't know a lot of the stuff and what the trade-offs are underneath. They're just shilling stuff or saying things to promote their own interests. And it's incredibly misleading and dangerous for users, right? Speaking candidly, we told tons of projects and users before the multi-chain fiasco that it's very centralized and there is a security risk. But, people just don't listen, or will say something very different until it all comes crashing down. And I think the only way for the industry to move forward and for this space to mature is to have more public goods and thorough technical analysis done by the Uniswap cross-chain committee so that everyone has the right information and to make an educated choice.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, that sucks. People say things and you can't really verify them, and you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds correct. But yeah, that's a really good thing to emphasize. And okay, so we've had some activity in the chat here, and I wanted to turn our attention to Fig once more, and not to put your feet to the fire too much, but I wanted to ask you. We've had a couple users who have been using Squid, and a couple times the transfers take some amount of time. So do you want to talk about maybe what the causes behind some swaps that could take a little bit longer, or why there might be some delay in the network? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. If the guys who had their transactions slowed are in the audience, I'm really sorry. You've had to wait. I actually still have it. It's like 1,000 Australian dollars going across transfer wires into my debit card, and I live overseas, so I need I need that money to arrive to be able to like buy my groceries, and it's taken 2 weeks. I've fixed something else out, but I totally like understand the pain of not knowing where your money is and how long it's going to be. But I guess the first thing to note is that if anything ever takes long with Squid, because Axelar is built in this fully open, like, decentralized way, we've built it and Axelar have built it, so there's no way that you've lost your money. Like there's no pathway for you to have actually lost your money. It's just it's taking longer to arrive. And we found specifically with Optimism and Arbitrum, we weren't predicting the gas costs properly. So when there's a gas spike on mainnet, the payment which you've made for gas on the destination chain on Arbitrum Optimism can spike a lot, so that the amount that you pay doesn't cover the execution on the final chain. And there's a couple things that were here. So first of all, we need a good interface on Axelar Scan. I've spoken with the Axelar Scan team to try and improve this, so that if it does get stuck, then you have the ability to add, help the execution along and pay that extra bit of gas yourself, just so you can get your money, because it may only be $1 or $2 or something like that. It's not going to be crazy. So we're going to try and improve the interface on Axelar Scan. Squid's obviously, I think we've already shipped it, but we're overestimating gas a little bit more, so that if there is a spike, then you're less likely to have not paid enough. And then the other thing, we've actually found it specifically on Earn, but there's a front-end bug where for some reason the submit button isn't clickable in some cases, and we've had issues with approval. And it's probably nothing to do with your tech, but we're looking into that as well. I've been able to replicate it. So they're all small bugs, but really sorry you guys had to come across it. Hopefully have all of them fixed like relatively soon.
Thank you for the answer. I know, tough question to address. And go for it, Jason, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what's crazy is that a lot of people don't realize Squid only launched in Feb of this year, so it's only been 4 months, right? So there's still so much stuff that's being worked on in the back end. We're building lots of new features and refining a lot of stuff. But within 4 months, Squid is one of the most popular cross-chain asset transfer applications. It's being integrated in some of the largest DEXs and wallets, and it really is just a testament to how much better the user experience is. There's still lots of stuff we're working on, guys, so bear with us, but the future is very bright.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's been really fun, but yeah, we'll get things really tight. We want to have it so that we're integrating with some of the biggest wallets right now, and everything has to be watertight. So we've got a big push towards making everything really smooth.
Wow, that's amazing. I actually didn't know that it had been so recently. But yeah, wow, that's amazing. And like Samson said, Optimism has had gas issues across a lot of protocols.
Mm.
We had issues with Ethos when it launched, and yeah. Anyways, there are so many complications that I can't really imagine. But yeah, bridges are definitely like bridges are such a sensitive area for a lot of users. And I don't know, me personally, like I really, really like Axelar solution, and hearing you guys talk about it. It isn't really a bridge. Like it's a bridge in that you are being able to get funds from one place to another, one chain to another. But sort of a secured network that is facilitating like this connectivity is so much like such a better solution than having a bridge hold all this power and just like, collect all these assets and then sort of give IOUs to a bunch of the users. So anyways, I'm excited for you guys to keep developing and yeah, because to me, this is like seems like an obvious step forward in terms of interoperability. Yeah. Okay. What did I want to say next? Oh, I actually wanted to ask what. Maybe I'm opening a can of worms here, but what is the minimum surface area approach? I saw that in a couple articles I was reading in relation to Squid security model and that sort of being shared by Axelar. Do you want to just tell us what the minimum surface area approach is? Maybe it's a nothing burger, but yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the thing with Squid is that you're swapping between native assets. So you swap a native asset on the source chain to the destination chain, and you're not you're only exposed to bridge risk while you're in the process of doing the transfer. Whereas in a lot of other models, you're exposed all the time. But then the other thing, I mean, the other thing is that our model relies on existing dexes rather than building our own dex and special cross-chain model. Like we've kept it as simple as possible so that you're only using Uniswap, Curve, like whatever the different solidly anything. And those have been audited and tested, and like billions of dollars of volume have gone through those contracts. So you're not like, say, with a lot of other cross-chain dexes, you're actually like using completely new software that relies on bridging solutions to work, and there's a lot more sort of unknowns. Whereas ours, we just purely like connect trusted modules and try to get what you need done via them.
Right. Okay. So like a minimum number of sort of pain points or minimum number of risk areas, I guess. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I was actually just thinking when you said you're only exposed to the bridge risk for a couple of minutes or some number of seconds rather than being exposed all the time. It reminds me of like holding money on a centralized exchange or just using it to get your funds from TradFi to DeFi. It's kind of analogous in that way, where it's like if you're on Phantom with USDC, you are fully trusting that China isn't going to kidnap the CEO of multi-chain or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely like some sort of analogous. Maybe that's a marketing. You can, all my application for marketing is open. You can hire me if you want. But yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Jason, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think like, when we say Axelar is so much more than just bridging, I just want to like, elaborate on that a little bit. I know we have Squid here today, which is one of our, of course, like one of the most exciting applications being built on top of Axelar. And as you guys heard, is primarily focused on cross-chain swaps. But we also have like an ecosystem of hundreds of applications building on Axelar that doesn't involve pure asset transfers. We have things like Prime, which is built out, this cross-margin, cross-chain lending and borrowing platform. We have like NFT platforms that's building like cross-chain NFT launchpads, NFT bridging, even cross-chain NFT marketplaces. Pretty much everything you see today on a single chain, whether that's like lending, yield aggregation, name services, there is probably someone building a cross-chain version of that on top of Axelar. So, from our perspective, cross-chain and or what we call these interchain applications are the future, and it's inevitable, right? Our view is that there's going to be thousands of blockchains down the line, if not more. And as an application developer, you really need to build a chain agnostic application. And because your users don't care, right? Your users just want to be able to do what they want to do. They shouldn't need to know what blockchain it's running underneath or being routed through. And really, like, by then, do we think we can onboard like billions of users and give them an amazing user experience?
Nice. Hear, hear. As a user, I agree. Yeah, awesome. So we're coming up to the 45-minute mark here. I appreciate you guys sticking around, and I have appreciated this conversation. And I wanted to cap it off with just some forward-looking thoughts and what you two are excited about for the second half of this year in terms of Axelar, in terms of Squid, but also maybe in terms of DeFi in general. If you have any cool primitives you wanted to highlight, but yeah, just the second half of 2023. What are Jason and Fig excited about in terms of developments in your fields?
I think UX is the thing which I'm most excited about. Like, as we get more adoption, crypto UX is going to start to like get to the point where we can have normal people using it, and crypto might start to find some good use cases, some entry points for like the average person. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this year, but at least some more of the groundwork's going to go live. From the Squid point of view, though, we're connecting up to the Cosmos pretty soon, so that whole ecosystem will be available from the Ethereum rollups and like other EVM chains. You'll be able to, hopefully we'll have some partnerships between Cosmos projects and the EVM world, and then the same thing goes for all these new rollups launching. Like, I'm just excited to connect them up. Like, won't mention any, but like the ZK rollups and then Arbitrum and Optimism have their own set of extra like rollups which are going to be launching. So I think just seeing the ecosystem scale elegantly and be able to essentially eat up all the new demand, because I think we've almost got a lot of the tech ready for just scaling blockchains, and I think it's gonna allow a new set of developers and users to come and build with us. Yeah, I think from the Squid point of view, we might be plugging into the fiat system, and we're doing anything from one token on one chain to one token on another, but maybe we can go from fiat or any fiat to any token or any fiat into like an NFT or a DeFi thing. So yeah, those are the progressions that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, on my side, there's a few things I think everyone can keep an eye out for. So in the third week of July, we are launching a new product by Axelar called Interchain Token. And what Interchain Token is allows anyone to create a cross-chain token within a few clicks. You don't need to know any code. You don't need to do any smart contract work. You're able to fully permissionlessly create a new token or make an existing token cross-chain. And it could be, and like we talked about earlier, rather than having wrapped tokens, wrapped assets, what the Interchain Token allows you to do is you can create these tokens and transfer these tokens across chains via a mint burn mechanism. Very similar to Circle CCTP, but you can do this for any token fully permissionlessly. And we keep talking about tokenization, and this being a $1 trillion industry down the line. What the interchain token really allows you to do is tokenize anything in a few clicks and make and help contribute to this like chain agnostic experience. So we think that is going to be super powerful. And also, the last thing is in Q3, we're launching the Axelar virtual machine, which is a programmable smart contract layer on top of the Axelar blockchain. And there's two huge implications for this. The first one is that smaller blockchains will be able to permissionlessly add themselves to the Axelar network, which will help Axelar scale coverage to beyond just the big chains that everyone knows about, and really connect all of the smaller side chains, smaller blockchains who today are almost like little islands. And then the second implication is developers building these cross-chain applications, rather than spending a ton of time deploying contracts on each chain and maintaining it, they can build directly on top of the Axelar chain and be able to deploy those contracts via Axelar to any of the chains on the network. So that should hopefully save them lots of time and allow them to focus on core logic. And that's it.
Yeah. Oh
You
my
guys
God.
yeah, those are some massive developments to make accessibility even faster and easier. I could see, off the top of your head, how many chains are currently connected to Axelar, and then where do you sort of see this going in terms of numbers? Is this just going to be the infinity gauntlet of networks, or yeah?
Yeah, so right now we're connected to 43 chains, all of the major EVM chains, as well as Cosmos IBC chains. And, I think by the end of the year, our goal will be have to connect it to all of the major chains. So then it really becomes this one-stop shop for developers that if you want to connect to any chain, you just use Axelar. And hopefully, with the Axelar virtual machine, by end of this year, we'll also be able to connect to some of these smaller chains that a lot of people might have heard of, but they're just not that well connected.
Yeah, that's wild.
Does one of those smaller chains include Solana?
We actually consider them a large chain. I guess some alpha is the Solana Foundation is actually giving us a grant to work on that connection. So it is definitely on our radar.
Fantastic news.
Yeah. Wow, very cool. Yeah, I gotta broaden my horizons here. I can only name, I don't know, not that many chains. Gotta do some research. That was very cool, very awesome. Thank you for the alpha. And yeah, we covered most of what I wanted to cover. And yeah, my last question was, do you play Splatoon? But we already covered that. So yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Fig. I feel like you guys. Oh yeah, okay. There's a relevant point. Does Squid or Axelar have a token? Herzengel asks. Yeah. Do you want to answer that quickly? Yeah, maybe we should talk a little bit. Yeah. What does do you have a token, first of all? And what does it do?
Yeah, I can go first. So Axelar does have a token. It is the ticker is AXL. That's the native Axelar token. And then for ERC20 chains, we also have sometimes denominated as Waxel, like wrapped AXL. And what it does is AXL is similar to like other blockchain gas tokens. It's used as gas to pay for cross-chain relayers. So every cross-chain transaction that goes through the network uses a bit of AXL. So therefore, as there's more and more transactions going through the network, more and more AXL is used, and it will get to a point where AXL will become like deflationary. So that's one element. The second element is that it's a governance token, as we talked about earlier. When you have AXL, you can stake it with any of the validators and then help secure the network, but also like vote on proposals on the development of the network. So yeah, I think that's mostly it. You can check out more information on our tokenomics page, And AXL is traded on pretty much all of the major venues, as well as on most of the major dexes. Pass to you, Fig.
Yeah, Squid does not have a token. And yeah, we haven't actually decided whether we will have one yet, but I think the whole team is pretty into the idea of decentralizing the protocol, and yeah, it's definitely a possibility. So yeah, nothing yet, no offer.
I see what you're doing there. Okay, nothing
Like
yet.
chuckle.
Well, pardon?
Dangerous. Well, guys, I mean, it's been really awesome using Earn through Axelar and through Squid. I also discovered satellite.money as another front end for Axelar. Are there any other front ends that we may not be aware of that route through Axelar?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We have. Oh, you go first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, guys. So if you go to like a lot of these dexes, such as like Pancake, Kyber Swap, Quick Swap, Spooky Swap, Stella Swap, and even a lot of these wallets, it's actually using Squid on the back end. If you pay attention, some of you will see that a lot of these under the cross-chain tab or whatever on the bridge tab, you'll see that it's powered by Squid and Axelar. They're just a lot of times has been like white labeled or has been built into the UIs of all of our partners.
Dope. And can I just say, as a quick side point, Waxel is a great name for a token. It's fun to say. Guys, I dropped some resources in the chat, by the way. So read the docs, read the Squid docs. Check out Axelar's blog as well. Some very well-written articles there that will help. And there's a bit of a sort of a case study on Squid. So check those out and, do some research as always. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Fig. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Craig, for recording. I love you. Thanks, Samson. Any final thoughts? I feel like we gave some final thoughts there, but anything to finish off?
No, LFG, and thanks guys for using Squid. Thanks for bearing with us, and hope we can keep working together. Excited for the partnership.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Really appreciate it. And thanks for the great hosting as usual, Charles. Superb work. And really appreciate everyone coming along. If you do have any follow-up questions, don't be shy to let us know in the questions channel and Discord. Fig and Jason are both very responsive, and so far our experience with Axelar has been very, very pleasant, and very much looking forward to continuing to develop this relationship. So if you do have any hard-hitting questions, we can definitely fire them through, or if you're experiencing issues or want to provide feedback, they are definitely excited to hear that, and clearly are passionate about delivering a fantastic experience. So thank you all, and we can close off Craig and then begin the real party. So sad if you guys missed the live recording, but make sure you tune into the next happy hour. We'll be announcing more in the coming days, so keep an eye out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.